The rain was merciless that night. It fell in heavy sheets that drowned the streets. Puddles shimmered under the dim yellow glow of broken streetlights. Zoya pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders, waiting at the corner of the road where her younger sister Heine was supposed to meet her after tuition. Heine was the heart of the family. Only 17, innocent, bright, her laughter the kind that could light up a room. Zoya loved her more than life itself. But that night, laughter never came. A scream cut through the storm. Zoya's heart froze. Without thinking, she ran toward the sound. Down a narrow alley, half hidden in shadows, she saw them, 3 men circling her sister like wolves. Their leader, Raheel, tall and broad with cruel eyes, grabbed Hina's arm. "Leave her," Zoya screamed, rushing forward. They shoved her to the ground, mud soaking her clothes. Her fingers scraped against broken glass, but she pulled herself up again, desperate, wild. She clawed at them, punched, screamed, but they overpowered her easily. When the nightmare ended, the men vanished into the storm, leaving silence and destruction behind. Zoya's trembling hands reached for her sister. Hina's face was pale, her breaths shallow, blood mixing with rainwater on the ground. "Hina, stay with me, please. Don't leave me," Zoya cried, clutching her close. But her sister's eyes fluttered once and closed forever. That night, something inside Zoya shattered, and something else was born. The hollow, the days that followed were a blur of grief and rage. The police came, scribbled notes, nodded without listening. "We'll handle it," they said, but their eyes carried no conviction. The trial came. Raheel and his men sat in the courtroom, dressed in neat clothes, smirking. Their lawyers twisted the truth, painting Hina as careless, blaming her for being out late. Witnesses who had once sworn to speak suddenly disappeared. Zoya stood before the judge, her voice trembling but loud. "They killed my sister. How can you let them walk free?" The judge lowered his eyes, his hands tied by bribes and power. The verdict was delivered coldly. Insufficient evidence. Case dismissed. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Raheel smirked at Zoya as he walked past her, leaning close enough to hiss. "You should have kept your sister at home. Now she's rotting in the ground." Zoya's nails dug into her palms until blood flowed. She wanted to scream, to tear the room apart. But she did not. She walked out in silence, broken on the outside, burning on the inside. Months passed. The house grew silent, filled only with the sound of her mother's sobs. Her father sat in corners, staring into nothing. Neighbors pitied them, then forgot them. But Zoya did not forget. She could not. Every night she dreamed of Hina's face, pale and lifeless in the rain. She dreamed of Raheel's smirk. She woke up with fire in her chest. One day she stood at her sister's grave, her fists clenched. "I promise you, Hina, I will not rest until they pay." That was the last day Zoya was the girl everyone knew. She sold her jewelry, packed a small bag, and left home. Her parents begged her to stay, but she only said, "I'll come back when it's done." far away. In a forgotten corner of the city, she found a martial arts dojo run by an old master. She begged him to train her. At first, he laughed. "You're fragile. Revenge will eat you alive." But when he saw the fire in her eyes, he agreed. Training was brutal. Her body screamed with pain, her bones bruised, her knuckles bled. She learned to fight with knives, with sticks, with her bare hands. Nights were colder than death, but she endured. Every strike she practiced, she whispered her sister's name. N-A-N-A-N-A-N. By the end of a year, the fragile girl was gone. What remained was a woman forged in grief and rage. She returned to the city unrecognizably, dressed in black, her hair tied back, eyes sharp. Her first target was the weakest of the three, Imran, the coward. She followed him to a bar where he drank alone. When he stumbled into the alley, she stepped out of the shadows. He froze. "Why you?" Zoya's voice was ice. "Do you remember my sister?" Before he could answer, she struck. It was quick, brutal, merciless. His body slumped in the same kind of alley where Hina's life had been stolen. Zoya didn't smile. She didn't feel satisfaction, only a cold calm. The second one, Tariq, was harder. He had gone into hiding, fearing revenge. But Zoya found him after weeks of watching. She cornered him in an abandoned warehouse. "Please don't. I didn't mean to," he begged. Zoya silenced him with the same blade she had carried through training. Her eyes remained dry. There was no room for mercy. Now only Raheel remained. The leader. The monster, the man who had laughed in her face in court. He had grown richer, more powerful, hiding behind guards and high walls. But Zoya had waited for this moment too long. She studied his routine for weeks, then struck one stormy night, the anniversary of Hina's death. The mansion was silent. Guards lay unconscious, one by one. Zoya moved like a shadow until she found him. Raheel, startled, grabbed a pistol, but she was faster. The fight was violent, every blow carrying years of pain. Finally, she knocked the gun away and pressed her knife against his throat. Raheel coughed, bloodied but defiant. "You think killing me will bring her back?" Zoya's voice was steady, her eyes blazing. "No, but it will let her rest." She drove the blade into his chest. His eyes widened, then dimmed. The monster was dead. Zoya staggered out of the mansion, her body shaking, her hands red with blood. For a brief moment, she lifted her face to the rain. She felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. But peace lasted only seconds. Sirens filled the air. Police cars surrounded the mansion. Rahel's influence still lived, even in death. To them, she wasn't a sister seeking justice. She was a murderer. "Drop the knife," a voice shouted. Zoya raised her hands slowly, but she did not drop it. The knife that had avenged her sister was the last thing she held onto. Gunshots rang out. One bullet tore into her shoulder, another into her chest. She stumbled, fell to her knees. The world blurred. In her fading vision, she saw Heine standing in the rain, smiling, reaching out a hand. Zoya smiled faintly, whispering, "I kept my promise." And then she fell. When they found her in the morning, the sun had stopped raining, leaving the city in an eerie quiet. Her body lay where she fell, the blood staining the pavement. The knife was gone, but two things remained in her hand: a lock of her sister's favorite purple ribbon and a single white flower, a lily. The legend of Zoya. The newspapers twisted the story. Young woman killed after murdering businessman, but in the streets, in whispers among women, a different tale spread. They didn't call her a murderer. They called her the Sister's Justice. Her life ended in blood and tragedy, but her courage lit a fire in others. She died, but her story lived on as a warning, as an inspiration, as a legend.